Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. It's Tuesday, September 3rd. Not a whole lot going on in the NBA. Thought we could do a Ask Me Anything podcast today. Yesterday was Labor Day. Hope everybody had a good day and didn't do a whole lot of anything. And, today, short pod, not a lot going on, but did want to get something out to you guys. Today, we will have more over-unders tomorrow with Alex, and then the Fry Pod, which came back in glorious fashion last Friday. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. I am going to be answering questions from a Twitter post that I made. I will also answer questions from the chat if any of them pop up here. So, feel free to ask questions in the chat. And let's dig into some of these questions. We won't go for too long today. From at JPOSU, we know Chet's an amazing rim protector, but is there untapped potential to guard big wings occasionally? Excuse me. Not just roaming off non-threats when he's playing with iHeart. I feel like he looked good in rare chances he's gotten on the perimeter. Not plan A, but could be a fun wrinkle. I absolutely think we're going to see this year. I think the Thunder are going to have a chance to play differently this year. And one thing that the Thunder have been saying is that they're not married to one particular style. They've definitely played one particular style for the most part with Chet at center or at small ball, with like Kenrich Williams or even Jay Will, who's just a smaller big. And so I think that this year, with the addition of Hartenstein, I think it allows you to play in different ways. And using Chet as a 4, I think is a way that they will do that. Now, primarily, I think he's a 5. I think the Thunder are at their best when he's a 5. And so I think that that's how they'll stay for the most part. But I do think that we will get to see Chet as like a 4 or a wing, certainly. So, from the chat, Francisco Maxi wants to know, how likely is it that Caruso replaces Giddey in the starting 5? I think that makes the most sense with the direction this team has gone so far. And the fact that I think Caruso is good at guarding bigger wings. I think that it makes sense to just kind of slide him in there. He certainly puts a lot more defense and shooting on the table, takes a little bit of rebounding off the table. But I think that makes sense. Adding Hartenstein to the starting lineup feels like a pretty big departure from what you had been. And perhaps they do want to go that way. Maybe they get into training camp, they realize that this is the best way for them to play, and they change it up. I'm not 100% on it being Caruso. I am just trying to put together the tea leaves here, put together this Thunder starting lineup puzzle, because it's not obvious. Anyone says that it's obvious, I don't know. I don't know how much they were watching the Thunder, because I don't think it's obvious. But if I were to bet today, I would say Caruso starts over Hartenstein, and then we'll see a lot of mixing and matching for sure from there. Let's see. At the Modangi. I'm heading back to OKC from Australia with my family early March, hopefully, to catch 4 games in 8 days. Wow. That's going to be great. As someone traveling a long way, would you consider this amongst the best stretches to come to OKC to catch games, weather plus condensed home schedule? For sure, with the condensed home schedule, I think it's an amazing time to come to Oklahoma City for sure. I think like that. Let me pull up that schedule. Yeah, I mean, we're talking, San Antonio, Houston, Memphis, Portland, Denver. The Denver games are going to be wild. I think like this is definitely the right stretch to come to OKC. So, yeah, I absolutely think it's a great time. And then weather-wise, yeah, it's usually pretty nice. Now, the thing with Oklahoma weather is you never know what you're going to get. So, it's likely going to be nice in March. It could be cold, but probably not. It's probably going to be nice. So, yeah, it's a great time to come to OKC. and hit us up again when he gets closer, and we'll give you some recommendations on where to go and what to do. So yeah. At Sam W. Tomlinson, if the new CBA allows you to re-sign all your guys and favors teams with draft picks, what's the drawback of having a high team salary in the future? Just luxury tax? No, I mean it's the second apron, which will, number one, like freeze your future draft picks, and like we haven't really seen how that affects teams yet. Now, if you have excess picks, how much do you care about that? I think is a question. The penalties are a lot. Like I don't know how long OKC could be in the second apron, and I don't know how long they would want to be. So we're definitely entering in uncharted waters for sure with regards to this new CBA, but it is pushing teams to stay away. Part of the reason the Clippers didn't re-sign Paul George is that they didn't want to be in the second apron with the team that they didn't think could win a championship, and they've traded all their draft picks. Having a draft pick that's frozen as far out as possible for them, and that gets pushed to the end of the first round, which will ultimately be what happens to those picks if they stay in the second apron. They basically have no assets then, because I mean that 30th pick it might as well be a second rounder. It just doesn't really matter. Some teams actually prefer those those early second round picks over like the 30th pick. So I think like those aspects of the new CBA are the things that are going to keep people from staying in that second apron for very long. But again, the Thunder are going to get the benefit of having this year outside the luxury tax, the next year outside the luxury tax, and then it really won't start for them to be over the tax until the following season, in which they should have been contenders for at least 2 years. So there's still a lot of gravy going on in OKC with regards to how that they've handled this team and how young the team is still. I think like that is going to get lost a little bit because there is a lot of expectation around what this team should do and could do, but they're still really young. And like we're talking about them being in their overlapping primes. Is something that we've talked about before. They're not there yet. Even though they're favored to, win the Western Conference or in some people's minds go to the finals, they're not in their overlapping primes yet. We're still a ways away from that. And this team is going to change and evolve and get better through time as long as they keep their good team chemistry and have health luck, So yeah, there's a lot going on here. At Jess on a Quest, Dunk or Junk, different offseason content types, NBA rank surveys or projections. Dunk or Junk, seasonal fall treats, pumpkin spice anything, pumpkin pie, fall scented candles, hot cider. This is a great fry pod question, John Jester. If you will save this for the fry pod, this is probably not the best one for me by myself, but a great question. So resubmit this later this week, John. Good work. Good work there. From at Bark Degnault, what was the hardest part about leaving the classroom when you decided to cover basketball full time? Oh man, interesting question. If you guys didn't know, I was a teacher for about a decade before I started covering the league full time, and I taught at Midwest City High School for several years, and then I ran an education department for a small nonprofit organization called Whitefields, which served abused and neglected boys that were in foster care. And so I did that for a long time. And unfortunately, I didn't get to choose to leave. The program completely shut down. So it was tough. That was really tough. Not being given the choice to leave. It would have been a tough choice to leave, but not being given that choice was probably a little bit harder. So yeah, I didn't even have to choose it. It was chosen for me, Bark Degnault. So, but yeah, love teaching, love just being a help to people in general. And yeah, I do miss some aspects of it for sure. Let's see. At Timberwolf_Josh. Given the Thunder's biggest issue versus the Wolves was size in recent times, do you think Hartenstein is enough to make OKC favorites in that matchup now? And are the Wolves the team that concern you the most in the West, or is it Dallas/somebody else? I think the Wolves are going to be really good this year. I think people are probably sleeping on them a little bit. I think the Wolves are going to be a really good team. I think with the Thunder, the Wolves, the Nuggets, the Mavs, and I'm like teetering on considering the Grizzlies, but I want to see them first. But I think like those teams are going to be really, really, really good. And so Hartenstein certainly helps with all of those teams, actually. When you think about the size at the big position that they have, with clearly the Wolves are giant. The Thunder now match up better, a lot better with them. You have Jokic in Denver. You have the big guys in Dallas. And then I'm not, obviously, you have a rookie Zach Edey, and like that's their big, but you do need size, certainly. But I think the Thunder might want to specifically stay small against Memphis, just because I think that you could really take Zach Edey out of what he does well. And defending his space is not something that he does well. So I would say Minnesota and Denver are probably the ones that I'm most scared of, to be honest. I know people don't like Denver's offseason. I know that they've just been pummeled all offseason. They still have Nikola Jokic. And that is terrifying because he's already won a title. I don't think he's done, despite some of the bad moves that or even some of it's like non-moves, that they've made, and just allowing some of these young guys to get reps. I think that, that they still are going to be really tough, really tough. Okay, let's see. At Trust the Void, I'd like your thoughts on Jay Will as a leader. From the outside looking in, it appears that he's a big part of the vibes of this team. The team seems to love him. Being closer to the team, what do you see? I mean, certainly the guy rarely doesn't have a smile on his face. If he doesn't, he's like being super thoughtful about what he's about to say. But he's always laughing. He's always smiling. Honestly, though, when we're talking about bringing good vibes to the team, overall, Shea is probably one of the biggest parts of that I've seen. Shea is, while he can be soft-spoken at times with the media, with his team, he really sets the tone of not only like taking things seriously, but also he brings he brings a light with him wherever he goes. So I would not underrate that. But the truth be told about this team in general is that there's not really anybody on this team that isn't, bringing a lot to the table as far as like vibes go. I mean, some of these guys are more soft spoken than others, certainly. Like Casey Wallace is more soft spoken. Oos is more soft spoken, but generally like very positive people though. And then you think about everybody else, Caruso, J-Dub, Chet, Dort, Kenrich, Isaiah Joe is another great one. I think Dylan Jones is going to bring a lot of good vibes. Aaron Wiggins, obviously. Hartenstein, too. You just, not only are they collecting like very like high talent, but these are all like really high caliber people, too. I think I've said this many times on this show, but I like encourage my kids to be fans of these guys. They're people that you can be proud of, to have in your city and on your team, like almost every single one of them. So, yeah, I think Jay Will is certainly one of those guys, but honestly, like you could pick any of these guys and you could be very proud. Even like the new guys in AJ Mitchell and Dylan Jones and Topic. I mean, they seem just like such quality people. So I think that's really important, even down to, they're two-way guys and like Flagler. I mean, just an outstanding person, just a really, really good guy. So, yeah. Let's see. Next question, and we'll go to the chat too. At Tyler Beats One, not a question, but I miss Alex on Slam and Jam. Not the only one, Tyler. Not the only one, buddy. I miss him too on Slam and Jam. But Fred's doing a good job for sure. It's fun podding with Fred. Fred's one of my best friends as well. So it's good that I get to keep podcasting with friends. Let's see. At Sooner Sensei, to this point in your career, what has been your biggest pinch me? Am I really getting to do this moment? Oh man. To be honest, there's a lot of those where it just is crazy to me. Some of it's even like my colleagues that I get to work with is just crazy that some of those people will call me and even like ask for help or advice or something. Like that's just pretty wild to me. And then going to the draft was certainly one of those moments. Like anytime that I get to sit courtside at a game is always one of those moments for me where I just try to soak it in because it is such a cool thing to be a part of, and something that I grew up an NBA fan in general and didn't go to like an NBA arena until I was a lot older and sat in the nosebleeds and thought it was the greatest thing ever. And so getting to go to games and sit close, I don't take it for granted. Getting to go back to the locker room, I don't take it for granted. Getting to talk to these guys and interview them one-on-one, I don't take that for granted at all. Like it is a huge deal to me, and I definitely have those pinch me moments all the time. Probably the biggest one was when I went to the draft, though. Like that was just, that's one of my favorite events of the year, and just love watching it on TV. But getting to go there was just unbelievable. Still, honestly, can't believe that I got to do that. At Miguel Davila 25. Who among the DTD crew would you want to exchange jobs with? Give us one, the person whose job you'd want the most, and then two, the realistic one that you could start tomorrow. Oh my gosh. I don't know that I could start anybody's job tomorrow, to be clear. All those guys are very talented and smart in their own way, and I don't think that I could just step into anything that they do. So the answer to that one is nobody. What I would want to do of all the DTD guys, Luke is a divorce attorney. I don't think I would want to do that. Taylor just started a new job with a really cool company in Oklahoma City called Jasco. I could see myself doing that. Jay is a lead pastor. Jay is so good. I don't think that I could step in and do that right away. I do have, there's like some interest there for me just because my faith is important to me, but I don't know that I'm really built for that. Alex's research, I guess, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I would just say like all those guys bring a lot to the table in many different ways. And I'm honestly so grateful for all of them. And then Michele works for a really big company that has spots in the US and in Italy and is very important to his company. And I don't think I would do very well in in his work either. So, but again, grateful for all those guys. They're amazing men. Okay. Let's see. At _, Danny Klein, what are some good vacation spots? It is September 3rd, my friends. My favorite vacation spot, and the one that my wife and I go to most often, is an island just south of Sarasota, Florida, called Anna Maria Island. It's just the best. That's our favorite spot to go to. We've gone several times since we've been married. So, yeah. Let's see. At Dizzle ______. He says that, not a question, but you used to be my teacher. Dizzle, I need to know who you are. I was lots of people's teacher, but I would like to know who you are. Just like hit me up in the DMs or something. Let me know exactly who you are and where I taught you. At Leroy Darcy, ever had any experiences with tornadoes? Nothing direct. Certainly have seen them, but nothing direct for sure. I am Kevbot, the best kind of donut. Going Maple Long John. That's a good one. At Thread Killer OKC. Did you know that Brahms has started putting actual peanut butter in their peanut butter cup ice cream? I did, and it is good. I like it. Let's see. We'll go to the chat before we finish up. I know it's not very long, but there's just a lot going on in my world today, and don't have a lot of time. At Rocco Bagley, how important is it to hit on one player in the 2025 draft? Any names you already can see being a good fit? Ooh, let's take a look at the 2025 draft. I honestly cannot wait to start digging into more of these prospects. I've certainly watched some of them, and but certainly not enough. I think, first of all, how important is it? If they get a higher pick with this Clippers pick or this Rockets swap or something, it'll be pretty important to hit. It's just important to hit on high lottery picks in general. So one guy that I think could be really good for OKC, and I don't know how, I need to watch him more certainly at UConn this year because I don't really know a whole lot about his defense, but he's big and he can shoot it. His name is Liam McNeely. And he played with Cooper Flagg in high school. I actually got to see them in person last year at the in-season tournament, and he was just really impressive. He can do a lot more than just stand still shoot as well. 6'8", I think, to me, high IQ, played really hard, and I've only watched like one full game of him, so I'm not like some expert on him, but I do think like he is one that I'm like, oh, like he makes a lot of sense. They were playing against Trey Johnson's team, who's also picked to go in the lottery. He's going to Texas. He's a shooting guard. He could be like a microwave scorer off the bench for OKC. He's another one that I really like. Then obviously you get closer to the top of the draft, like Cooper Flagg is going to fit anywhere he goes. He especially would be outrageous with the Thunder. Those are a few names. McNeely is one that really sticks out to me, though. Let's see. Oh, Larry Miller says that Anna Maria is north of Sarasota. I don't know why I had that backwards. Thank you for correcting me. Larry lives in Sarasota. So, yeah, good call. Penny Skillern in the chat. Bangelope wants to know, how closely should we be watching the Clippers this year for their draft pick? Very closely. You know, the Clippers draft picks and the trades of the Clippers have literally changed the Thunder franchise. And I think this one has the capability of doing that even more. Yeah. Let's see. We got a Maple Long John fan in the chat. It's great. It's a great one. Shout out to Jay and Jay's Donuts up here in like the Deer Creek area. It's probably the best one that I can find. Let's see. A lot of people want to know about vacation spots. James Knight says, you guys will regret trading Giddey. That could be true. That could absolutely be true. That's on the table. We think we know how this is going to turn out, and it logically makes sense in our head how this will turn out. But it's possible that Josh Giddey ends up blowing up in Chicago, and Caruso is just like a role player. But the thing we do know about Caruso is a very high-level role player. So I think it's possible. It's also possible that they don't regret it just because you're going to have to pay Giddey a lot. And I think the extension that Caruso will get will not be as much. And also just trying to keep this team together long term, I think it would have been hard to keep Giddey and the big three. So yeah. Let's see. At Ryan Sheffield, if the Clippers are a bottom team going into the trade deadline, do you think they will actually try to make moves to improve for the short term? I think that they will. Yes. I think that they will always try to make moves in the short term. That's how they've always been. I think they will continue to do that. There's no benefit at all to them losing. No benefit at all. So yeah, absolutely. Travis Cagle says that he's excited for the Minnesota game on New Year's Eve. He's going to bring a group of 10 people down from Wichita, Kansas for it. Nice. make sure to come say what's up. That's great. Matt Hartley, will there be another meeting with the player series? Like, how Oklahoma are you? I love those. We'll see. We'll see about that. And let's see if there's another one I can answer quickly. Okay, last one from Gary Kelly. Andrew, as a Rockets fan, could you tell me the benefits of running back the full roster as to how it benefited OKC? Also, what's your outlook on their future? I think there's absolutely a lot of good things that can come from just running it back. They had a lot of change last year. Houston did, and they have so many young guys. You also have the way the season ended for them with Şengün on the shelf and with Jalen Green blowing up like that. I would be really confused, honestly, as to what's going on there. That I would just need to see it again and see it with Jalen and with Şengün and see what that looks like before I decided to do anything else. So yeah, as far as outlook goes, they still need a number one guy. I think a lot of people have written off Jalen Green as being that guy. He's still really young. I mean, Jalen, let's see, he's 20. He's not even 23 yet. He's 22 years old. We've completely written him off, and I get it. Like I get it. I'm probably one of the guys that has done that as well. But I think like if he can somehow put it together, and I know most people don't believe what he did at the end of the season. I also have a hard time believing it, but I think that there is a possibility that he becomes a really good player. So he could be that. Şengün, that archetype I struggle with, honestly. Like he's got to be closer to Jokic, and if he's not, I just hate that archetype of big that doesn't defend at a high enough level. But he's obviously a really good and really valuable player, and he's going to make a ton of money, and that's the reason why I don't like the archetype, because he makes a lot of money, and you question whether he can actually be the guy that gets you where you need to go. Love Jabari, love Tari Eason. I think those guys are awesome. Love the Reed Shepherd pick. He's really small, but I think like he's got a chance to be something where I didn't really quite believe in the other guys around that area in the draft. They just need to establish who's the number one guy, and perhaps they need to trade for that guy. And they've got enough young pieces and enough draft picks and enough everything to be able to do that. So because of that, because they are kind of playing this a little bit slower, which I like, I think that they're going to have a chance to either see one of those guys emerge or have enough value on their roster plus picks in order to make a trade. So, yeah. All right. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope you guys had a good Labor Day. We will be back tomorrow with another pod. And I'm grateful for you guys giving me lots of questions on September 3rd. You guys are the absolute best. And we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.